Okay, we're going to call the public hearing to order. This hearing has to do with the potential annexation of land formerly on the edge of town that contains the town's sewage treatment plant. I'm going to read the public notice into the record to get this started. Then Bill Ingersoll is going to tell us a little bit about the property and the procedures, and we'll see if this massive audience has any comments on this. So, public notice. On October 16th, 2017, the Mayor and Council of Chestertown introduced ordinance number 02-2017, general obligation. Is this the right? Yeah, no.
No, it's the other one.
Did I give it the wrong one?
Annexation resolution number 1.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry,
I
I'm
need to
wrong.
find the public notice. Let me get, I'll find it.
Wait, you want the new one?
Okay, redact everything I just said from the public record. We'll read that later. That was for the,
You got the right one? You want the right one?
Yeah, that'd be great.
No, that's, actually there was a change when they had wait a minute.
You only
Wait a
dates
minute.
change.
I think I might have it right
Are
here.
we filming this?
Here it
This
is.
is embarrassing.
This is it. You can go ahead and get started. That's the final.
All right. This is the notice for the annexation. Notice of rescheduled public hearing, 2017 Chestertown annexation number 1. The Mayor and Council of Chestertown hearing originally scheduled to commence on Monday, October 16, 2017, concerning the annexation proposal known as the 2017 Chestertown annexation number 1 has been rescheduled to commence on Monday, November 6, 2017. The hearing will be held at 7 p.m. in the meeting room at Town Hall, 118 North Cross Street. The annexation area contains 149.11 acres of land to the south of Chestertown and is commonly referred to as the Chestertown Wastewater Treatment Plant or Town Lagoon site. The property is generally bounded on the south by John Hanson Road, on the west by the lands Bryce and Stepney LLC, on the north by Stepney LLC, Radcliffe Creek, and Stepney 4 Business Trust, and on the east by the lands of Silversack, Trumpy, Lowe, and Wagner. When annexed, the property will be added to the second ward of Chestertown. The lagoon site has been in continuous operation since 1967 and also serves as a treatment plant for Kent County's Quaker Neck sanitary system. Information concerning annexation number 1 is available at the Town Hall. Citizens are encouraged to attend and comment or send written comments prior to the hearing by authority of Chris Serino, Mayor. So do you want to expand on this at all, Bill?
Well, had we had an audience that was here about the annexation, we go over the fact that with our resolution, which we don't pass during the public hearing, but would pass in the next meeting, or intend to pass, there's an annexation plan that covers water, sewer, land use patterns, public facilities, and zoning. This plan, along with the annexation resolution, which is actually an ordinance, has received a positive recommendation from the Kent County Commissioners, which is important because our zoning interpretation of the site would be institutional in that we're there and that it's an operation rather than a developable area. We also have a positive recommendation from the State Critical Area Commission and from the county zoning. We received a letter from state planning that warned us that our dates were wrong, which made us change this public hearing from 2 weeks ago and readdress it so that we had the right timing. Though I'd say it's a technicality, I'm just thankful for them doing that. They also they had some other notes, some of which were about critical area, though they had no idea that the critical area commission had already specifically approved the zoning that we were going to install on it, and also the critical area zoning, which I believe we're just keeping what the county had as far as critical area operations. There's no change. There's no change in land use patterns in that there'll be no development. That was a problem with the county zoning, that it didn't match up with ours because it allowed for residential housing sites, which we don't have in mind. I think of this as a service and a use rather than a developable area, and I think that was the difference. I noticed that the county commissioners asked why. One of the commissioners asked in declining to vote, it's a 2-1 vote, why would the town want to annex their property? And I think the simple answer is something I said to the planning commission for the county. It took us months and sometimes years to install the BNR-ENR plant that cost $9.2 million and sort of revolutionized our process of sewer processing. And we also take in county lands in Quaker Neck, and it's number two is that it was immediately adjacent to Stepney Manor and has been for about 15 years. So for me, it was a no-brainer in that dealing with ourselves. It's not dual kind of zoning and land use. The third thing was, and I think I've said this previously, when we built our solar field out there, we were limited to 4.99 acres, couldn't exceed 5 because farmland can only have 5 acres. And, that's fine with me looking at what came after that, but we probably would have built a slightly larger one. We wanted to conform with their zoning. So that's it. This is what I call a no-brainer. So hopefully later on we can sign both the resolution and the annexation plan, which I discussed.
Are there any comments from the audience?
My only comment is, reading this deed, House Cartwright showed the deed to Ponderosa one time. There was one little page on a piece of telling you, this thing would drive you crazy reading this. But at least we know where it is.
I did read it.
But, they could never...
For younger people who don't know who House Cartwright was, he was on Ponderosa TV show.
But they put up the whole map of Carson City at the beginning of every show, so they couldn't find any of those deeds.
To me, it makes total sense that we should have the ultimate control and that our town, wastewater treatment plant should be within the town boundaries. And I think this is a good
It
one.
really makes sense. It makes sense not to be it. I mean, why would anybody want it?
Yeah.
It's not like a choice seat.
And generally, your hall will fill up with people when you're annexing people who don't want to be annexed. This is not protested, and also, it's our policy not to annex people who don't want to be annexed.
All right, do you need a motion?
No, I don't think so. But in the next meeting, hopefully we'll pass the annexation ordinance resolution.
Oh, so this is a reintroduction?
This is just a public hearing.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, we'll do it.
So
Yeah, sorry.
you could have a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Oh, a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
We have to wait for 20 minutes.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Now, there's so many things we can't talk about now till 7:30.
Reconvene at 7:30
Good.
for the utilities commission.
Well, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where are they finding all these little fine points?
They're on
You'll-
the surveys. of properties.
You'll find them in our charter, which describes every inch of the town.
I know.
Oh, wait a minute, 2.5.
Call the utilities commission meeting to order at 7:30 p.m. The first order is to approve the minutes of the utilities commission meeting of October 2nd, 2017.
I'll move to approve the utilities commission meeting for October 2nd, 2017 as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Let the record show we unanimously approve the minutes, which is always a big accomplishment for us. Operating funds on hand for the Utilities Commission. Total cash on hand currently is $1,146,378.73. In the capital funds for water and sewer hookup, there are $738,000, which brings the total for Utilities Commission to $1,884,378.73. The next item of business under Utilities Commission meeting is the payment of the bills.
I move when we pay the bills for the Utilities Commission.
Is there a second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Let the record show we unanimously agreed to pay the bills, which brings us to the highlight of this meeting every week, actually every month. Bob Sides.
Yes, this will be a short one. The paving of the patches around town are done, including some that were paved a couple days after they were done, so they may settle a little bit. If they are, we'll adjust those another time. Collected a soil sample at East Campus and Byford. and sent it to the lab to get it analyzed. It came back non-detectable for Diesel Range Organics and non-detectable for creosote. So I'm talking to Earth Data. There was definitely something in it, and I think we need to find out what it is. The odor was very, very strong. So exactly what it is, I'm thinking we get a company in here, do 2 or 3 bores, and get the soil samples analyzed right away. One of the problems with the last sample is it didn't make it to the lab within the standard method holding time. So it was outside of its permissible limit for being analyzed anyway, and we wouldn't have been able to use any of the results we got back.
Doesn't have a particular odor, just obnoxious.
It sure smelled to me like diesel fuel.
Yep, that's what, the owner of that property is a friend of mine, and she said it was a really strong smell.
Everyone, the people from Delmarva and the 2 residents that were there, everybody thought that it smelled like diesel fuel, but, or fuel oil. They're very similar, but again, that's not a lab test, that's just, it smelled like a petroleum product. It could be a solvent, it could be kerosene, diesel fuel, fuel oil. It's just impossible.
So Delmarva initially told her, oh, don't worry about it, this is just the creosote around the base of the pole that they were removing.
According to the lab tests, it is not creosote.
Not creosote, that's very interesting.
But there are many types of creosote compounds that they use, and they tested for the ones that are standard for coating wood, which is typically a wood tar, a wood coal tar, and it came back negative for all of that.
Strange.
So I think we need to find out what it is.
Does it still emit an odor?
Very strong odor.
Still?
Oh, you mean now?
Well, it's been,
I haven't been back up. It's all
been
been
buried.
backfilled.
Now, I think maybe after it got to the air, it might dissipate. So.
Well, I actually had the sample in my truck for a few days, and the odor didn't go away. And it was left the odor on your hands. When I grabbed the soil sample, I kind of made a softball size clump out of it, and I had to wash my hands twice to get the smell off. It was pretty strong.
so you'll let her know if you're going to bore, because I know she's done some replanting and stuff in that area.
Yeah, what I
It's all
wanna,
buried over now.
the first thing I want to do is find a company that'll do it, a geotech company that will take it on. I'm sure it's going to be under $10,000, depending what we're talking about, though. We may go ahead and bid it out anyway. The downside to bidding it out is it would increase the time frame on getting a turnaround. So typically, if you're going to bid something out, you're not going to get anything done for a month or 2. If I can get a good price on it, I can just say go ahead and do it and get it done hopefully in a week.
Well, do you think it's renewing itself, or is it residue from some time?
It's impossible to say. All we know is when Delmarva called with the complaint, they said that there was a strong odor coming out of the hole and on the soil, and I stopped what I was doing and went up, and I could smell it when I got out of the truck, and asked them if a hydraulic line had broken, you know, maybe something while they were doing the work had contaminated it, but no.
And it was only that one pole?
Yeah,
It was isolated then, yeah?
It was an old pole that had tilted very badly, that Delmarva unilaterally decided to replace.
Now, Delmarva did say they had done a number of poles throughout town, and that was the only hole that they got this odor from.
Do the houses nearby burn fuel oil?
I'm sure some of them do. I didn't check the yards to see who had fuel tanks. The thing is with this, it's odd. They didn't hit it at the surface. He said he hit it when they got 2 or 3 feet deep, and the contamination continued for the depth of the hole, which was a total of 10 feet.
And the oil tank on that property is outside the house, but like diagonally, it's a long way away from the hole that they dug at the corner of the street.
It would be about 50 feet away from any possible fuel tank. So to get that kind of contamination would take a huge, spill.
And this has nothing to do
You're
with
gonna be
the
going uphill
hospital.
too.
We don't know. That's one of the reasons I want to make sure we do get it identified on what the contaminant is. I don't want it to have anything to do with the hospital. Hopefully they'll just come back and say, oh, somebody dumped some solvent on the ground. It's a solvent used for degreasing engine parts. It's, pretty standard and nothing to worry about. Or the first lab test was wrong. It's creosote from the pole
Yeah.
that has seeped into the soil and.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
that,
I think there's no reason for us to get ahead of ourselves. We
Yeah.
just need to
Yes.
get
And
it retested and.
I talked to MDE and I asked them, Susan Bull, what would be good things to test for? If it's not fuel oil and it's not creosote, what else do we need to test for? And she gave me some parameters, some test numbers that are typical for petroleum products, and we're gonna have it tested for that.
Do you need our vote to go
No,
beyond the bidding process and just do a single source?
only if it goes over $10,000, and I'm gonna keep it under that. If I have to, I'll send my guys down with a backhoe and we'll collect soil samples, to keep it reasonable. But I don't expect it's gonna run that high. You can put in a whole monitoring well for about $8,000. So a couple bores and samples off to the lab shouldn't be that bad.
the property owner's been there, I think, 30 years. So, it would be 20 anyway. It would be very old stuff.
Yeah, keep in mind, this is, as far as we know, a very localized, piece of contamination that's in the ground. And it could be as simple as at 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody wanted to get rid of a half a gallon of old fuel that was sitting in a tank and they just pulled over on the side of the road and dumped it.
Yeah.
It's hard to say exactly what it is. I'm not gonna jump to any conclusions. I just think we need to identify it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Okay.
That was once farmland though, years ago, right?
Yeah, my understanding, I wasn't here then, but talking to people, that was all farmland. I think the original house is over on Pine. And the original house is still there,
College
as far
Heights
as I
was the
know.
Bell Farm.
Yeah, yeah.
What else you got, Bob?
The construction going on for KRM, we asked them to increase the frequency of the inspections on the compaction of the soils that are being used in the road. They agreed, no fuss, no muss, so we can be sure of what we're gonna get up there.
Why do you need to compact it more?
Not compact it more, test it more. The original contract only called for the team that tests the compaction to be there every other day. But an on-site visit made me feel like that wasn't enough.
Is that to support the pavement when it eventually gets there?
Yes. And it includes for the utility lines. So as they backfill the trenches where they put the
Gotcha.
sewer lines in, without proper compaction, what you end up with in, 5-10 years is a little swale in the middle of the road, or, so everything's taken care of. KRM is very cooperative and actually goes out of their way for anything that we ask them
Yeah.
to do to keep the project, within what we want. And that's all I got.
Okay, any questions for Bob?
You need a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Move to adjourn the Utilities Commission meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're unanimously adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you for setting report on. I heard that.
We'll put them on.
All righty. We're going to call the regular mayor and council meeting to order, 7:41 PM is the time. Our first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the mayor and council meeting of October 16th, 2017.
I'll move to approve the mayor and council October 16, 2017 minutes as submitted.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show we unanimously approve the minutes. Operating funds on hand for the town of Chestertown as of November 3rd, 2017. Total operating cash on hand for unrestricted use stood at $1,582,953.30. In our Broad Reach donation, PNC checking balance, I don't really understand this. We have a
Negative?
balance of negative $27,757.30.
I didn't understand that either.
Can you explain?
No, I can't understand it either, but I'll get you an answer.
Damn right.
I thought it was,
I think,
spent
I
more
thought
than we
that was a
collected.
fait accompli.
So did
So
I.
that's something we all need to look into,
Yeah,
right
I thought
there.
there was a credit at one time.
I was gonna ask him.
No, we're not asking, please don't start writing checks out there, we're fine.
All right, so we need to
Yeah,
look
I-
into that, but that's what's on this sheet, so I read it.
Yeah, I don't think that's right at all.
In addition to the $1,582,953.30, we also have $85,597 in reimbursement requests. In other words, we spent $85,000 in marina repairs that are gonna be reimbursed to us with grant money that we've requested but have yet to receive. So in essence, you could add that 85,000 to the 1.58 million and get an idea of where we stand financially. So those are the operating funds on hand. So our next item is the payment of the bills.
I moved to pay the bills.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? The record show we unanimously agreed to pay the bills. That brings us to item 4, which is Ken Gazelle, Shore Regional Health updates.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor,
Good evening.
members of the town council, good evening, how are you tonight?
Good.
Thank you very much for giving me a few minutes on your agenda, I appreciate
problem.
it. What I thought I would do this evening is just give you a quick update on 3 or 4 issues, but then certainly answer any questions you have regarding our hospital system or what's going on, and but unable to answer any questions about the Ponderosa, I'm sorry. So,
You weren't old enough to watch it, that's right, yeah,
You're right on the
yeah.
border, though.
right on the
Right,
board.
right there.
I wanted to start with an update on the rural study. I know that that's been a very important topic for the community here in Chestertown as well as in Kent County and all of rural Maryland, to be honest with you. And let you know that the last meeting of the rural study was held on September 28th. So that study has concluded from the perspective that there are no more meetings. At that last meeting, we had a number of recommendations that were vetted by the workforce study group. And I'm pleased to say that all of the recommendations, once vetted and wordsmithed, were approved and unanimously approved by everyone on the task force. So I'm also pleased to say that Shore Regional Health supports those recommendations. I was a member on that task force and fully supported all the recommendations that came from the council. So we are at a place now where those recommendations will make their way through one of a number of different constituents to ultimately get to approval. One constituent could be the state legislature, and we will work very hard behind the scenes with our contacts to push some of those recommendations along that go to the legislature. But there are also others that will go to state agencies that oversee healthcare in the state. And that's the Maryland Healthcare Commission, as well as the Health Services Cost Review Commission. And those two are important commissions because one of the recommendations is designation of Chestertown to a rural community access hospital, and that's under the purview of the Maryland Healthcare Commission. And the other is to seek funding support from the state for rural healthcare. I think we did a really good job of defining why we're unique, what some of the additional expenses are associated with running rural healthcare in Maryland. And the Health Services Cost Review Commission is the commission that's going to determine if additional funding could be provided to rural healthcare and specifically to Shore Regional Health based on the recommendations. So important next steps are to vet those recommendations, get them through those 3 bodies and see if we can get all of the recommendations supported by the state. It's been an important process and now is where the heavy lifting comes into play. And I think there'll be a time for the council, both town and county, as well as the community at large to support these recommendations actively so we can get the approvals that we're seeking. Any questions about the rural?
How did they define rural? So I assume we're rural because it's basically that commission was essentially started because I think of concerns expressed in this community, but I would imagine like maybe Western Maryland,
There's a couple
Somerset County.
There's a couple of different ways to define rural. At the federal level, I would say 2/3 of Maryland is defined as rural based on federal guidelines. But at the state level, and for the purposes of this study, we were really looking at 3 or 4 areas of Maryland specifically. The mid-shore, which we lumped into one area, all 5 counties, from Kent down to Dorchester, southern Maryland, and western Maryland
Yep.
were the predominant areas. And then when you get into McCready and down into the further,
But nobody actually is designated at this point, because it has to go through the legislature first, right?
I believe the state may have some designations for some purposes, but not for healthcare specifically at this point.
To me, this all boils down to, in addition to wanting to preserve as many services at our hospital as possible, is it really comes down to keeping some inpatient beds at the hospital. So can you elaborate on did they make specific recommendations about how many beds, and was there a recommendation to preserve inpatient beds?
Yes.
Because my understanding is that was part of the recommendation.
That's correct.
But I don't know the specifics.
That's correct.
Or if there are specifics.
Preserving inpatient beds at our Chestertown Hospital was part of the recommendations. It came under the auspice of the Rural Community Access Hospital designation, which as defined would include full-service 24/7 ER,
Yep.
inpatient beds, as well as surgical services. So when Shore Regional Health provided our white paper, we defined a specific number of beds
Right.
that the Rural Access Hospital should have. And that was basically based on where we are today and what we think the future is going to project.
What is that number?
Our number was 10 inpatient beds. And what we've come to realize is that's a number that the state is going to manage and dictate. That is, it's driven by census, it's driven by trends in that census, and that will be determined at the state level. But we put that number out there because of our current census, as well as where the state and federal government really expect us to be over time with reducing inpatient admissions, thereby reducing the number of beds we need. So all of that was part of the recommendations that came from the rural study, but not the specific number in the final draft of recommendations from the workforce. And again, because the state will dictate that.
How many do you have now?
We are licensed for 30 inpatient beds, and but based on the time of the year, we can run an average daily census from 6 inpatients to 30+ patients. Flu season, as it's making its way around the corner, will escalate our census pretty significantly over the next few months. So it fluctuates, but it's between 6 and 30 roughly.
Well, this number of 10, that's a minimum?
Yeah, again, that is a projection and it is a minimum number, but what we're really trying to get to is that inpatient beds are needed here in our facility here.
I think we would agree.
And there's a number of reasons why, from geographical distance to the next closest hospital to economic viability of the community that we serve and expectations of residents that come to communities like Chestertown. So it's all.
Do you have any sense for the amount of time now that this group is done with the study and they've submitted their findings or their recommendations? Like what kind of time horizon are we looking at until the rubber hits the road and they're like, we're either going to fund this or we're not going to fund this? And
the recommendations as they've been presented through the workforce chairs are really trying to sequence them over a series of years. So rather than say, these are all the recommendations that came from the work group and we want them all at once, or we only want half and we'll fight the other half at some point in time, what they did was basically allocate them by year. So some will make its way through the legislation this year and hopefully get an answer by the April time period and then enact it into law on July 1st. That's the state-driven side. The state agency sides work on a little different timeline. Their timeline is more about the fiscal year for them, and our fiscal year runs from July 1st to June 30th. So some of those state agencies, like the Health Services Cost Review Commission, which will answer to the money side of things, will likely make their decision by the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30, for an effective date of July 1. That's what we're hoping for. But the wheels of the state government sometimes move a little slowly.
I am aware.
And we're going to continue to apply the pressure.
What's the primary driver behind, determining all of this? Is it population? I mean, do they look at Kent County and the Midshore region in terms of you have X number of residents, therefore you need Y number of beds, or is it an average age of the residents that drives it? I mean, what's the primary figure that they're looking at to determine how many beds go to which hospital?
First, it starts with the premise that the state of Maryland wants to provide the best health care in the entire country. We want to be the best at providing health care. So with that, then what they've now realized is that healthcare is different, even in Maryland, in different parts of the state. So Baltimore City and the surrounding areas are heavily populated. There are a number of hospitals that you could probably hit a three-wood from one hospital to the next. But the population is so dense that you need that many facilities. When you get into rural healthcare like you are, we are dealing with the population, absolutely. And for our Midshore region, we're estimating about 170,000 residents. And what they then do is look at the number of beds needed per 1,000 population. And that is an historical review that shows how many patients use those beds over time, and what's the trend, and how is that trend projected to look in the future. And how does that correlate with two other things? The age of the population that we serve. So as we get older, the likelihood is that we'll need more beds. And as the population either grows or shrinks, that will also determine the use rates, which determine the number of beds.
Yeah, I was just curious to know if they saw 20,000 people with an average age of 45 or 50, the same as 20,000 with an average age of 32 or 30.
Short answer is no.
Okay.
Age does factor in, but use rates are really one of the determining factors, though.
Gotcha.
Population and age are secondary to use rates.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Are the number of days a bed can be occupied taken into this determination?
Absolutely.
As far as what the illness is, or does the person need to be transferred to another hospital?
Sure. That you're using terms like length of stay, which
Yeah.
is the number of days that a patient is in the hospital. What is the length of stay that they have in the hospital? That's a determining factor, as well as the acuity level. Acuity just is a fancy word for how sick are the patients we see. And those two are determining factors as well. What's our average length of stay? What's the acuity types of patients that we see? And the sicker patients require a longer length of stay, which often also fills your hospital as well. Good questions. So may I switch gears off the rural study then? I just want to cover a couple of other areas, just so you are officially in the know. I wanted to let you know about some progress that we're making with regard to the Shore Nursing Rehabilitation Center here in Chestertown. And I want to start first by saying that our team here at Shore truly values the significant support that the mayor has in our community and for our healthcare system. They've been a true partner in helping us fill a need in the community, as well as become a placement facility for our hospital patients who no longer need hospital care, but can thrive in the care provided by the manor. Well, as we assessed our capabilities as a healthcare system recently, we determined a couple of things. First was that the manor, if you will, is the only nursing and rehab center within the University of Maryland medical system. So for as big as we are, $4 billion organization, and all the hospitals that we have the only nursing home here as part of the University of Maryland medical system. And what we've also come to realize is that as changes are made in the nursing home industry, we at Shore in the hospital business are really not the right party to be managing that facility for the benefit of the patients and the community. But we have a firm belief that it does provide a valuable resource and support to the community. So we are going through a process as we speak to put out a request for proposal to look to see if there's a partner out there that would take over the operations and financial responsibility for the manor. Now, in order to do this, though, and to find the right partner, we have very specific conditions we want to meet before we sign an agreement with anyone. And those are built into the RFP, but they're also going to be certainly clarified and agreed upon before any contract is signed. And those things include things like we want the community to have the manor as a viable facility within our community. So you can't buy it, flip it, close it, and make a profit and move on. Certainly that's not our expectation. We also want the manor to be able to see more acute patients. Right now it is more of a nursing home facility, and we would like to see a broader range of acute care patients that are needed in that facility, again, to serve as a conduit for those patients that no longer meet or are qualified or appropriate for the hospital stay, but certainly need advanced care beyond going home right from the hospital. So we would like the capability to expand the types of patients we see.
How many beds are there at the manor?
Scott, the licensed bed for 92 licensed beds.
At the manor?
At the manor, yes. So, so that's a second condition, is we want to see more acute patients there, and we also want the new prospective buyer to infuse capital dollars into the building. The building is aging, it needs financial support. So in all three of those circumstances, we believe that a partner who runs nursing homes is the best suited to help us.
So that was a question I was gonna have, like, who do you see as a potential buyer of this property? I mean, are there nursing home operations out there that are looking around in Chestertown?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And
so that's like a real possibility, like that could actually happen.
well, actually, since we issued the RFP, one of the first steps in the process was anyone that's interested needed to sign a non-disclosure agreement form with us. And that basically kept the information confidential between them and us. So within weeks of submitting the RFP, we've gotten over 19 requests for non-disclosure agreement signatures. So not to say that everyone's going to get a full-fledged proposal and consider purchasing it, but we're interested in what we've got to say. And our RFP was pretty detailed. It wasn't vague so that there was a lot of ambiguity and they needed more information. They had a lot of information with that RFP to make their assessment quickly. So I'm encouraged, but we're also going to stick to our guns and make sure that the right new owner is appropriate based on the conditions that we've set. Timeline, best case scenario is if we can get some of these RFPs back and do some presentations, it's possible that by the spring of next year we could reach agreement and transition that facility.
How long have you owned the manor?
Ooh, again, I'll ask Scott, do you know?
I think the manor and the hospital merged together in like 1999.
Isn't that long? That's not right.
99?
It's more recent than that, I'm pretty sure.
No, it's been within the past 10 years, because I worked there. And it wasn't, I mean, it wasn't under UMS.
Scott said 2003, is that more like it?
That makes more sense.
We can get that information for you and bring it back to you.
So it's uncommon for hospitals to run nursing
It is,
homes?
it is. But we see them as definitely part of the continuum of care that's needed in the community to support hospital patients who need to be discharged into the right care facility. That's what's most important.
I've read how some communities are merging childcare and nursing homes just because they see so much benefit from both populations. Has that ever been considered by UMS as you're kind of going through this potential sales process, or by any other nursing or?
Not so much by UMS, but we are certainly
Lake
open to the possibility of ideas and strategies like that. I think communities all over the country are partnering where it makes sense and trying to gain efficiencies, try to reduce costs, but still provide great care for what they do. So we would encourage those kinds of ideas as part of the request for proposal process. Again, as long as it meets some of the criteria that we've got, not some, but the criteria that we've established, that's where we start from. Anything above that and beyond, I think, would be interesting and worth consideration.
Because those are two critical needs, especially, the child care.
Absolutely.
And you see the success that some communities have had, and you can't help but wonder, would that be viable in this community as well?
Intergenerational facilities are really a new thing. There's a big one in Annapolis that's a retirement home and then has a little, I don't know how little it is, a daycare, preschool type. They're building, it's an old high school that was abandoned in Annapolis.
Well, Chestertown Nursing and Rehab did have daycare in their building, and they closed that before Autumn Lake took over. Well, my mother was in a nursing home in Elkton that was alongside of an elementary school, and they had a big day room, and the children came over every day for their art projects. And it really makes a nice mix for those who are capable of doing that. There's Union in the building. Is that going to go with sale?
That'll be discussed with any potential buyer as to how that transpires. You're absolutely right. There is there are union employees in the manor.
What else you got, Ken?
A couple quick ones?
Yeah.
Be quick, thank you.
Sure, no problem.
Again, and I really do appreciate the time.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
But again, I wanted you to hear it from me first and then answer any questions you have so that you gain a full understanding. I wanted to share that recently, Shore Regional Health and Compass Regional officially signed an agreement. And what that agreement stipulates is that we at Shore will lease space to Compass Regional in the hospital here in Chestertown for them to use as a 4-bed residential hospice center.
It's wonderful.
It's one of those examples of win-win scenarios where hospice residential centers are needed in Kent County.
Yeah.
You can invest in bricks and mortar if you're Compass Regional, but if you've got a facility that's got capacity, that we can meet their needs and create that win-win, we were all for it. So it took us a little while to go from vision to reality, but I'm pleased to say that we signed the agreement. Heather and her team were phenomenal in helping us get to where we needed to be, and Scott and his team really helped facilitate the space, the lease agreement, and the services that we'll provide there. And our services are more of the support services concept, so food, nutrition, environmental services. But Heather's team from Compass Regional will provide all the medical care for their patients, and it will be just as if it's in one of their other residential
That's great.
So,
That's fantastic.
time-wise, I think Heather's going to need to do a little bit of renovations to the facility to get it to their standards. And we're thinking probably after the first of the year, we'll actually start seeing patients in our facility under the Compass
I
flag.
don't believe we've ever had a physical hospice center here in Kent County. Have we? I'm pretty sure, I don't think there, I did a training with the hospice
There's a
years ago.
hospice room in Tabana.
Yes,
It's
there
really a
was.
good example of how
There was.
partners can work together to fill a need.
I'm glad you came, and I hope it gets in the paper, because the word on the street is Genesis has already taken over.
Well, I won't tell Heather that, 'cause I know she's got a vision, and I think her intent is to
Yeah.
be the regional.
And
hospice
it's been
provider.
out there for weeks, so.
Taking over one.
That's the local rumor mill. I have no
Yeah,
control over
it is.
I
I
appreciate
heard
the
it
opportunity,
in,
though, to share with you where we
Sure.
are on that.
yeah,
agreement.
I heard it in Denton.
Oh, that didn't even
So.
count.
I know.
And lastly,
Sure.
just as we talk about hospitals and facilities, we also need to just share with you some of the hard work that we've been doing to bring new providers into the area as well. So those providers range from private practice cardiologist, who is now part of the community, to primary care, who is employed by Shore on a full-time basis, who works with Dr. Susan Ross. So our intent all along has really been to try to fill the Philosopher's Terrace building with specialists and primary care providers. And as we bring them in, they're not here 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, every day of the week, but certainly a couple days a week for some that are really busy and the community needs, to a couple of times a month when we're bringing in super subspecialists here to take care of patients who would normally have to drive to Easton for their care. So GYN, OB, office hours, endocrinology.
Did you get a new endocrinologist? Is she in yet?
We've got one physician and a couple of nurse practitioners here that come up a couple of times a week. And our goal is to really try to maximize the workforce around diabetes and endocrinology. It is a huge national issue, though, so trying to recruit and retain providers is incredibly challenging. But huge need on the shore, and we're going to do all we can to keep the providers we've got and to continue to fill. So as we're working on the future vision for the hospital, we're also supplementing that with providers that are going to stay in the community and work hard to meet the community's needs.
That's great.
And the last thing, I just wanted to put a plug in, if you wouldn't mind, please, for the Foundation's Casino Night, which is a fundraiser for the hospital. It's a fantastic evening. It's going to be held on November 18th. That's a Saturday night. I think, Margie, it starts at 7:30?
I'm sure it starts.
It starts early and ends late, so I'd encourage you all, if you're looking for a fun time to get out and entertain yourself and be entertained by the hospital and our team, please come out. It's on the 18th of November. It's over in the Garfield, thank you.
Starts at 7.
Starts at 7, thank you. I'll be one of the dealers, and if you're at my table, there's a great chance you're going to win at whatever we
Oh, boy.
So, again, I appreciate the time and certainly the in-depth questions, and we'll ask if you've got anything else you want me to cover.
All right, guys, any more questions for Ken?
Well, I certainly hope that whomever ends up acquiring potentially the manor, you point them in the direction of Jamie Williams, our economic developer here in Kent County, so she can talk to them about PACE, Property Assessed Clean Energy. It's energy efficiency upgrade financing, which is perfectly suited for upgrading an older building. So Jamie will be your person to put that company in contact with.
Great. Thank you very much.
Giving you a quick plug, Jamie.
Plug for Jamie. Thank you.
Thanks so much for keeping the lines of communication open. We definitely appreciate it, and it seems like things are headed on a pretty good trajectory, and we'll just have to stay vigilant
We really
on both
appreciate your
sides.
support. Thank
All
you.
right, thanks, Ken.
Thanks for your time.
Okay. All right, moving right along, Town Manager's Report, Bill Ingersoll.
Mayor, there's going to be a dry spell here. I've got ordinances to introduce and have passed for those.
Can you define dry spell? Like really boring stuff?
Like 18 minutes of dryness.
That's
The
a
first one,
good warning.
we had a public hearing before this meeting on the Chestertown Annexation Resolution Number 1, which is the annexation of the Chestertown Lagoon property, which was introduced a couple months ago, and is what I called a no-brainer. So I'm asking the council at this moment to pass or not pass that, along with the annexation plan that goes with it. That would be 2017 Chestertown Annexation Resolution Number 1.
So we need a motion.
I move that we adopt this annexation resolution number 1 for 2017.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, let the record show it's unanimously adopted, annexation resolution 1-2017.
So I'm going to pass 3 of those around there. They have.
Gotta go sanitize my hands.
You don't have to sanitize me yet, but the second one is the general obligation indebtedness for the Chestertown Marina stormwater improvements and other infrastructure improvements. This was brought up at our last meeting. It's the USDA loan and grant, and I think Liz asked a good question. What does all that gobbledygook mean on the first 2 pages? So our bond counsel sent bulleted sections showing you exactly what you're passing. It's an instrument that allows us to borrow and get grant funds to raise the land level at the marina and put things underground that belong underground, and also, I guess, pretty much work with our other projects which are along the shoreline and in the water. We had to borrow earlier. We had to set up the loan that would be our part of this, that will be replaced by the bond, and that was done with the People's Bank. So that's ordinance number 2-217, general obligation indebtedness for the Chestertown Marina stormwater improvements and other infrastructure improvements.
So am I correct in my interpretation that this is like a bridging loan, right? We know that eventually we're going to get the money from the USDA that will repay
This loan.
This is the bond, yeah, this is the approval of the bond.
Right.
And the earlier document that you signed probably months ago was with the People's Bank
Right.
to cover.
Couple months.
That was a bridge loan.
Yep.
Till the bond replaces it.
Right.
So it's approximately $598,000 with almost an equal amount of grant, and it's also a very, very favorable interest rate, interest only, for several years. I don't know how we could do it any better than that. So again, that's ordinance number 2-2017.
So do we need a motion to adopt this?
I need a motion, yeah. Do we have a motion on the earlier one?
We did, yeah.
Do you want to look at, oh, you have it.
I got it. I have the whole thing, that including, just for the public's information, the first sentence of the ordinance is a page and a quarter long, one sentence. So we did get a detailed, and that was really helpful, Bill. Thanks for getting that, getting the explanation from the lawyer. So I am satisfied. I've been through both of them to the extent that well, the second document really helped, and I feel like I do understand it. So I would like to move that we pass ordinance number 2-2017 for general obligation indebtedness for the Chestertown Marina stormwater improvements and other infrastructure improvements.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let the record show unanimously adopted ordinance 02-2017, general obligation indebtedness for Chestertown Marina stormwater improvements and other infrastructure improvements.
Can I back up to this resolution? Should this be 1-2017?
It's-
2017.
It's
I know
really,
it's over here,
it's,
but
she's talking about the annexation
yeah, the
resolution.
annexation.
It's not quite numbered exactly the
Well,
same.
it's really an ordinance. It's not,
Yeah,
it's
it's-
not really an,
It's really an ordinance, but it's numbered appropriately in the way that we would keep it. Does that make sense? Because we keep ordinances and resolutions and annexations separately. So
Okay.
this is the first
that-
one
It's
for
the
this year.
first,
Yeah.
First one annexation this year.
because
So
the other
it's-
annexation was 2016.
16, yeah.
number one. No, we do annexations by number one, number two, not, again, it's, so it's not a repeated number.
Okay.
So where are we on that motion?
It's passed.
That's
It was, the second one was
Did we
passed?
vote? We got a second, did we vote?
Didn't hear that. Okay, that's
We
good.
passed.
All right.
All right.
We passed it.
Next one is a late arrival. I think everyone got a copy of it today. It's Town Resolution Number 3, 2017, Real Property Tax Credit. This is a resolution, not an ordinance. And what it is, it might be quicker to read it, but I think basically when we annexed the business campus that Dixon Valve is building, the 70 acres, or 79 acres, one of the things we agreed to was that we would have a tax credit program called an enterprise zone. And when you get to the point where someone actually does something in an enterprise zone, then you basically say, this parcel is getting this done to it, the value of this is X, and you start the process of those tax enterprises. In other words, you're putting the rubber on the road. So what this resolution says, be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of Chestertown that subject properties, and this is where the large warehouse is being built right now, and that would be parcel 486, District 4, number 026942, which means nothing other than it's the large parcel where the warehouse is being built, shall receive a real property tax credit against the increase in county taxes resulting from the above referenced capital improvements, beginning in the next full year following the date herein approved and continuing for 9 consecutive years thereafter, as follows: 80% in the first 5 taxable years, 70% in the 6th, 60% in the 7th, 50% in the 8th, 40% in the 9th, and 30% in the 10th. That's for a $12 million investment on that property number one. So this is a real important act. This is something that we said we would do when we passed this enterprise zone, and this is probably the reason that it's happening. So it's something to be proud of. You probably just see all the mountains of dirt when you go by, but real things are happening there. This warehouse is 186,000 square feet. It also has an office complex as part of it. It'll be fully automated, and probably the value will be even higher when all the equipment and things go in, and the jobs that follow for this and others, along with the apartment building, is going to be a real boost even at these percentages. So we're going to be patient while this thing builds, and we're going to share in the revenues later and somewhat now.
What is the expected property tax generated from this project?
Well, this is county taxes. They tax at a different rate. They tax at about $1 per 100. So, and you have to take the 80% off. So I guess I could have a mathematician do those numbers. We're guessing when we say $12 million, we don't set the assessment, the state assessor does. But so there's a little bit of variability there, but whatever it is, those percentages will be applied.
Part of that gets reimbursed though, yeah? From the actual credit itself.
Right. Well, we have the experts here for you.
Yeah.
50% is credited.
Okay.
So it's really, really going to eventually pay dividends, and like I say, patience is important, and keeping your promises is also important. And if you pass this tonight and you don't get to sign it, please just stop in my office and sign all these documents. A lot of paper going around. We'll need 3 copies of each.
I've got the third one of the annexation. So it says that you start the 5 taxable years following the calendar year in which the property initially becomes a qualified property. What is it that causes it to become qualified after a certain amount of investment?
I'm guessing this resolution. I'm thinking that this is why, so this calendar year.
So it doesn't wait for the construction to finish?
Well, we were asked to do this.
Yeah.
So we're being asked to do this by whom, Jamie? I hope that was right. Whom or who? By who?
We were asked to, we got the application now, it has to be certified, and then the first year will be, they're expected to be up and running at the beginning of next year.
Okay.
Early 2018? Okay, so it'll be the tax year 2018.
And then it'll get reassessed and that'll be the second.
Yeah.
So the timing is just fine. The property will be assessed probably around next July.
Right, so do they reassess as the improvements continue?
I'm sure they
My
will.
understanding is that
Every 3 years.
Oh, well, I thought when you did new building or new construction, it was, as it was finished.
Yeah, but after that, it'll be triannually.
Yes.
Whatever cycle they're on.
Do we need a motion to?
Yes, a motion to pass Town of Chesterown Resolution 3-27, 2017, real property tax credit.
Do I have to make them all?
Yeah, well, you're the motion maker.
I move
Thank you, Sam.
to pass Town of Chestertown 3-217 real property tax credit.
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed?
I think it's important to note on page 2 up to the 345 employees, full-time, 56 part-time, and they'll be hiring 25 new ones.
That's huge.
So that's not just...
Yeah, no, we have to do this.
That's important, very,
It's
very...
hugely important.
I mean, it's not just a building out there that has nothing in it. It's going to have people
No,
working.
it's one of the most important economic development initiatives we've had in the town in decades, so.
All right,
we
well,
have
then
to
I'll let you
support
be,
it. And we said we
because
would
it's
do
so
this.
important, I'll let you sign yours
Thank you.
first.
So this is, the annexation ones are all signed.
Oh,
There's 3
thanks.
copies
And
there.
have you signed them too?
Yes. Well, sorry, no, they need to go across.
I know, but
I
this,
signed
You've
them,
signed them,
she
yeah,
signed.
they need to go over there.
all right, and the last thing that's dry is that Case has been working hard with Yerkes Construction on whittling down remember we took the interpretive center at the marina and we whittled it down from a 2-story building to a 1-story building. And they've been working together, as I said, to whittle the contract down to something that is a doable thing. The contract now includes line items. I know this is pretty small, but everything that they do to build that building has a line item.
Yep.
Which we'll call unit pricing. The contract is down to $1,088. $1,088. And what I would like you to do tonight is authorize the mayor to sign that amount or anything less in the next week or so. We have the contract here, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be the final document.
We're down there working right now.
Well, that's us working. Well, what our idea is, funding-wise, is to start this building with a shell, and then at least that's the mayor's idea.
So we have $480,000 in grants that have been awarded but yet to be expended to go towards this basically $1 million building. So ideally, what I would like to do is we've been told by the state repeatedly, spend what we've given you before you come back to us. So we kind of have to get started on this. And it'll be interesting, but I think about that amount should hopefully get us the building's exterior. And then once those grants are expended, we will be continuing to raise money, and we'll probably have to complete it in phases that might take a year or 2 additional years. So we're going to have to talk to Yerkes about how that's going to work, but that's the plan.
The reason why it's important is we'll be removing the existing building, the waterfront building, so that we can build the bulkhead across the front in front of the fish whistle. There's the fuel pier, there's...
You mean the little store?
Yeah, the little store.
Yeah.
I mean, and almost now, as soon as we get all the boats out of the water and we're closed up for the winter, that path, which will eventually be a really gorgeous walkway to the water for the public, has got to be cleared for the bulkhead and the future underground lines that go out there. So what I'm asking for tonight is to authorize the mayor to sign any document
from that figure lower, based on the unit pricing that we have and the work's been done, and that this gentleman was the low bidder when it was a two-story building. This was our plan.
So do we need a motion for that, though?
Yes.
What was the price?
$1,088,000.
I think you could have rounded it to $1 million.
I'm happy to round it.
Not a cent over there.
But to authorize the mayor to sign the document should.
I move that we authorize Mayor Serino to sign the document authorizing construction or granting construction for the, what do we call it? The
Interpretive
Center at
Did I sign here?
a price not to exceed $1,088,000.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Let the record show you, we unanimously agreed to authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Yerkes Construction for the interpretive center.
Okay, so
All right, do you have more stuff?
We're done with the dry stuff. The next thing is happy stuff. It's, I'm going to sign the permit for the Downtown Chestertown Association to have Santa come to town on November 24th.
That is happy. That's a lot happier.
At 6 p.m. Is Santa here, or is DCA here? Santa's not here. The other one is Dickens of a Christmas, first Friday. Kay is here. I intend to sign the permit. This is the longest permit application I've ever had. But let me tell you, it's good that they are, actually, it's multiple copies. It's good that they are because it'll be a sort of a Bible to follow in the future. Should this be a big success, which I'm sure it will be. Kay, do you want to say anything?
Well, I do want to thank Chief Baker, the police department. This is a big thing for them. There are a lot of little details that the police department is signing off on this for parking, and street closures, and safety of the runners on the 5K. So I do want to thank the police department for being willing to do that and going along, making it safe and good. I just want to give you a brochure for the event if you haven't had one of these. And I guess that's it. Any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
So December 1st.
So do we need a motion to approve this permit?
No, that's just a report. That's the end of my report.
I know, but we don't, like,
We don't usually approve permits by motions, do we?
Yeah, especially because they do want to waive the liquor.
Oh, we have an open container part?
Yeah, they're all in there.
The DCA doesn't, though, do they? Do they?
No, but that's first Friday, so Saturday.
Well, that's automatically waived.
Yeah, that's automatically waived, but Saturday and.
Let's just
Sunday.
waive the.
Not Sunday, just Saturday?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's have a motion on that, please.
So we're talking about Dickens, not the
Right.
Christmas parade.
Right, the whole weekend for the Dickens.
So what is the area that the open container rules would be
It
waived?
would be from, basically from Mill Street down to the water, mainly on High.
That's a big area.
Of course. Well, yeah, but they're having lots of events, really, and in different places at different times. So, there'll be people up at High Street in the afternoon on Saturdays, then in the evening they'll be down at the foot of High Street.
Does it include Cross Street?
Beer and bonfire or something, yeah.
That sounds better than beers and fire pits.
That's right, yeah, beers and bonfires, I like that better too.
Does it include Cross
Any
Street?
trouble with the copyright like Harry Potter?
A portion
You don't have to
of
call it a
Cross
CD Christmas.
getting across, really, not inside.
Not up and down, not like First Friday when.
okay, do we have a motion? No one's made a motion.
Okay, I move that we grant a permit for a Dickens Christmas weekend, December 1st to 3rd, but you just need the open container way for the 1st and 2nd, right?
Right, I think, yes.
And-
And they're right, DCA kind of has it for Friday night. So we're piggybacking on DCA's event Friday night. We're adding elements to that. Horse carriages and fire pits and fire dancers. We've got a couple of fire dancers.
Oh.
That are.
Fire dancers, did I hear that correctly? 7 o'clock fire dancers. I will make a mental note of that.
You aren't one of them?
I am not one of them. No. Okay, Liz, did you finish that?
Well, I'm not sure now, I'm a bit confused. So,
The fire dancer.
well, we waived the open carry permit, the open carry. Oh, it's been too much news about
It's not the West.
open container.
Wow.
Oh, it's too much bad news. Waive the open container rules for, I'm confused still, so Friday and Saturday? Yeah, for Friday and Saturday night,
For all Christmas events.
yeah.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Any opposed?
Looks like fun.
All right, let the record show that the open container requirements have been waived for Friday and Saturday for Dickens Up Christmas. Do you have anything else for us?
No street closures.
That was unbelievable. It's like whole rainforest.
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry.
When are the street closures? We didn't cover the street closures.
We have the there is a
It's in the
permit there, Bill
permit.
has it.
Yeah,
But I want to
I mean,
know,
we're basically closing
That's what I
the
asked for.
300 block of High Street Friday night, put the fire pits down the middle of the street for First Friday.
Perfect.
And then Saturday, we're closing the 200 block of High Street for the daytime festival.
okay, that's good, that's what I
it's
wanted
almost
to know.
like our own event. It's like,
All right.
Yep, thank you.
The mayor's report, I'll be brief since this is kind of dragging on here.
sorry.
Because of Bill's lengthy,
Dryness.
paper-intensive report. Just a reminder that tomorrow there is an election. We have 3 excellent candidates running for Liz's soon-to-be vacant seat in Ward 1. So please go vote for one of those guys. And vote for me, please, even though I'm running unopposed. I can always use the support. I will be voting for myself, so hopefully I'll be
That's all you need
victorious.
to do.
I know.
You only need
And then
one
we have
vote.
a gentleman, Reverend Ellis Tolliver, running unopposed for Sam's seat. So 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., Chestertown Fire Department. Will you be there, Jen?
All day,
Jen Mulligan, and we'll be there in person to greet you. And
yeah. Let me say hi.
a couple things. I think since our last meeting, didn't our cleanup happen
Yes.
after the last meeting? So we had a really nice event with a group at Washington College called I Serve, which is kind of a subgroup of SGA at Washington College, and teamed up with me, and Bill helped out with some supplies, but really it was mostly driven by the college and the SGA and their student body. Did a rail trail cleanup, met at Dixon Valve, and basically spent a couple of hours. I think we probably toted away 30 bags of garbage and whole living room sets and a ton of tires and old bikes. It's always kind of amazing what shows up there. And like, the more you pry back into the valleys, the more you kind of just want to go back to the trail. There was some stuff that went on back in the day that was not environmentally friendly. But anyway, it was a great turnout. This is like the 4th year we've done this, and it's been a great turnout every year. So thank you very much for helping to put that together. I'm actually, in a couple of weeks, this is going to be a big winter for improvements at the marina. So I've been communicating a lot with Bill and Case about how much funding do we have available, like how much can we expend now, what order do we want to do things. So I'm going to try to put together a comprehensive presentation for our next meeting with images and diagrams and funding amounts, and try to explain what we think we can get done in the next calendar year. It's going to be very interesting because we're just going to have to tear the place up, frankly, and rebuild a lot of it, and how we phase that and the order that we do it and how far we can get with the existing funding that we have is going to be dependent on several factors, including where bids come in and whatnot. But I'm confident that by this time next year, there will be some really fundamental and big changes will have happened, even though we won't, I don't think, be done with the project. We'll still be needing to raise money, but we'll be able to knock out a lot of that infrastructure that we need to do. So I'll be giving a big comprehensive update at our next meeting about that. I think I'll stop there. So I'll fill in the blanks at our next meeting. So board reports, I think it's your turn to start tonight. Liz Gross?
Well, I was going to exhort people to vote tomorrow, but Mayor already did that. I know that several council members had a conflict last Saturday, but I was able to go and judge the Halloween parade. And wow, what a huge difference. That thing had grown a lot since last year's. I know that it coincided with Kent County High School's homecoming, so.
That was a big part of it.
But if you saw the little picture on the upper left corner of the front page of the Kent County News last week, just the most recent edition, I was so impressed with the families that participated in that and the lengths to which the parents went to get all dressed up and have a good time with their children. I think that really speaks well for the quality of family life in this area, so that was fun. And apart from the mystery at the corner of East Campus and Byford Drive, which Bob Sipes is looking into, things are fine in the first ward.
Okay, Linda?
Okay, Saturday is November 11th, Veterans Day, and Washington College is having free dinners for all veterans from 5 to 6:30. And then at 7 o'clock in Decker Theater in Gibson Center for the Arts is a celebration. It's called Re-Entry. It's a performance tribute to veterans. And if you're not a veteran and you'd like to attend the dinner, it's $12. So that's Saturday from 5 to 6:30 for the dinner, and 7 o'clock is a free concert. Okay, Kristen Owen from the Downtown Chestertown Association has sent out emails to all the merchants and employees to please be considerate and not park on the streets on High Street during the holiday season to leave space for shoppers. And Ariana, our Tea Party Festival meeting is Wednesday night upstairs in the Visitors Center at 6:30. I told you I'd remember your name. I love that name. Okay.
I better write dog parking on my paper.
I said Tea Party, I didn't say Farmer's Market.
Not done yet.
He was waiting there.
Okay, I got the update on a brewery coming to High Street in Chestertown. The target date is March 2018. And that's their target date. Okay.
But where are they gonna go?
Where?
The other half of
Casanelli's,
Awesome.
Casanelli's on High Street. Okay. I had sent out a picture in an email to everybody about the trash, the mattresses, the playground equipment, the wooden playground equipment that is on Cannon Street and very visible from Cannon Street in the town yard. I sent this out the weekend that everybody was praising the town crew for painting the lines on the parking spaces downtown. And this was down rigging weekend, Halloween. All of the residents along Cannon Street are paying property taxes at the historic district rate. I went around tonight just to make absolutely sure it was still there. I had asked for the fence to be extended from where it stops and behind the houses on Cannon all the way up to the town yard. This is disgraceful. It's disgraceful. And here's the picture. I already sent an email. Nobody responded to the email. And it's right behind Mullins Ashley. There's a wide opening there in between the buildings. My suggestion is that no one have to pay for bulk trash pickup or any items like this until the town cleans up their own yard.
Yeah, a second. I don't hear a second.
Take it. Was that a motion?
And if you don't like the sight of this,
I don't think
picture
we
it
can
in
do
your
a
own
fence.
ward. Picture it in Ward 1, 4, 3.
There's a pile in
1,
Ward
4,
one.
3. You know?
It's
ridiculous.
That is pretty unsightly. I was
It's
there.
more than unsightly.
But it's also like, yes, it's pretty unsightly, but it's not, the whole yard doesn't look like that. So I think Tom could probably.
This is visible from Cannon
I
Street.
get it, but I think Tom and 2 guys on the crew could probably.
It's been like this for weeks and months.
Well, I know you asked for it, but it's definitely winter work, and there is a cost involved, so.
Well, can't they stack the
Well, actually, I
mattresses below
think,
the?
yeah, I agree with you there. I think they've made a great effort to be able to stow it in these rollbacks so that you can't see it. But, and the county comes and gets it at a certain time and takes it away. That's their part in this. Be happy to go down there with any of you and all of you and go over what Tom has done in the last 2 or 3 years with the yard and show you pictures of the old. The reason why that looks bad is because the rest of it now looks so good, including the little parks, the parking lots, everything.
Can we email or text Tom tomorrow or can you call him and just ask him to move it?
I mean, you've got an
so that-
advertising
Absolutely.
business there with mattresses stacked up.
I understand.
Behind the
I
don't think it would
understand
take him more than
how
an hour.
soon you want it to.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Will do. I think,
I really, really appreciate that.
yeah.
And
I hope
so
we
do.
don't get into
so-
some movement where we don't pay. I'm not gonna pay my taxes till you do this, or I'm like, that's about ridiculous.
That'll probably be the last
It's not
straw.
taxes.
You know,
We're
no
expecting,
taxes at all.
Ideas, but that's.
We go from low to no.
All right.
All right.
we're expecting
No more
people to
infighting.
pay for the pickup
Oh,
and then.
these may be the mattresses that I had moved out of the.
We'll talk to
philosopher's chair.
Tom and see
Yeah.
if they can, I agree, there's like this gap on Cannons where you can see right back to that yard, and it's, the dumpster is on a hill so that they can back up easily to deposit things into the dumpster. So when the mattresses are on the hill, they are up very high and they're visible from.
And then the playground equipment, you can see through there that's piled up along, because there's no wooden fence there. The wooden fence is stopped.
All right, well,
And-
I'll have to look at that, but I don't think, if you compare what the yard looks like now to 4 years ago, it's
yeah.
night and day, and I'm talking night and day.
So I'll be sending out some pictures just so we can remember. But Tom loves to make the yard look better, and there's not, unfortunately, there's not a fence high enough that from Mullen Ashley's second story that they won't be able to see into the yard. I can't change that, you know
Well,
that, right?
I mean,
It's tricky.
It's
We have
better.
a big
and then
town
anybody
yard where
riding
some
by.
of the stuff we do isn't super attractive, and it's kind of tucked right
town.
behind some really nice residential property. So it's been awkward ever since we
Can we-
acquired that yard.
Long-term, I mean, is there a way to vacate that property and maybe move out to the lagoon now that we've annexed it? Or do we want
That's an intriguing
to
idea,
stay in
Sam.
that location?
That's an idea, but it's not an idea that I had, it's an idea that you had.
Redevelop.
Definitely.
And you're gonna be out of office in like 24
let's
hours.
wait.
Well, then we
What
could,
happened to that?
Redevelop the site and get
Dropping
some.
bombs
tax
on
revenue.
us.
we could move the dump in Foxley Manor out there too.
See, thanks.
Why don't we finish the
Thanks, Sam.
annexation
Are
first?
you on your way out, are you? Solid waste is a problem, and I wish y'all knew how much there really was. We do have to charge a fee, but that subsidizes the operation, does not pay for it. If we charge people what it really costs to dispose that stuff, the manpower, the trucks and all that stuff, you'd say get out of the business. Let the people in town do what the people in the county do, which is take their stuff to the transfer station. I can't call it a dump anymore.
All right, but in the short term, let's talk to Tom and see if he
Yeah.
can tidy some of that up. Okay, is that, anything else?
Is there
Linda?
flogging?
Any more bombs to drop on?
Any flagging later on? Am I just?
After the meeting.
It looks
All right, good.
awful. No, I'm finished.
All right,
Thank
good.
you.
Well, mine will be very quick. I just want to commend you, Chris, and the Sultana crew for putting on another fantastic
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
weekend. We had some great weather Friday and
We
Saturday
did,
at
yeah.
least. Young Professionals had their Brew Fest last weekend in Wilmer Park. And it's great to see all the work that's going into Dickens of a Christmas. we're just really fortunate to live in a town that's just so action-packed. There's just no possible way to go to all of the events. And I think that really speaks to the quality of life here in Chestertown, and it makes it a very desirable place to live. So to all the town staff and to you, Kay, for putting on all these fantastic events, I just say thank you. So all is well in Ward 3.
Well, said something. It's been what, 2 weeks since we've had a meeting, so I wanted to bring it down rigging. I know you're directly involved in it, you don't want to get into it too much, but it's really a great weekend. And I know I went out to get dinner the Thursday night before it started and couldn't get in a couple of restaurants.
Yep.
So it really does bring the people in. Probably the restaurant hotel business does better with that than they do the tea parties.
Oh,
It's a great holiday, and I won't call it a holiday, whatever you want to call it. And then I want to add my urge for every people to get out and vote. You know, we live in a country that has probably one of the lowest voting percentages in the world. And I don't quite understand that. In other countries, you go and you might get shot if you vote, especially if you vote against the ruling party. And I don't think Chris has got anybody out there. You're not ready to shoot anybody. Well, you'd have to write. We don't have write-in, so he's got that part made. But it was. I just think we got 3 really good candidates, and Chris brought that up. I've heard them all speak, and I would be happy to serve with any of them. In fact, I know I'm going to be serving with one very nice gentleman, and we don't know who's going to take Liz's place, but I think that the council will do well with the next 4 years. And finally, as I said before, everything's pretty nice and fine and for.
Okay, great. Thank you, Marty. There were no requests from the public to be on the agenda. Are there any questions or comments from the public? Jeff?
Well, first off, I just wanted to say that what Councilman Shogi said in his last remark about the Public Works facility, I've thought that for years. I know the town doesn't have a lot of space, but as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to downtown and parking and other things, that's a lot of wasted space there in that public works facility. So I just thought that was a great idea. It's a good idea sometime in the future. And as far as the downrigging weekend, obviously I see everything's there in front of me at the fish whistle, but on the other hand, it's spread throughout town. And it's not just there, especially with the new Sultana building opening and other activities going on in town. People are constantly throughout the town. And it's an economic boom, not like just like.
One of the places I went to was Louisa's.
Yeah.
Louisa's is not even downtown, and I couldn't get in there, so.
But it's an
Nobody wanted to let you in, Marty.
Not just on a
They turned away
Thursday,
more
Friday,
than 60
Saturday.
people.
It starts on Tuesday and runs till that Monday, if not to Tuesday after downrigging. So it's realistically, it's a 6 to 7 day economic impact. Just figure I would say, and it's, by far it's the best weekend of the year for us, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty much for everyone. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Honestly, that speaks directly to the impact of having a functional marina, because that event is completely dependent on having functional areas for those boats to operate from, and it's marginal right now, so we gotta make it right.
I agree the weekend downrigging was very good, and obviously I missed it in the calendar, but the family event that went on in Wilmer Park, I came upon because we went to the fireworks. I've never seen so many children and parents and families in one location, everyone having a wonderful time. I heard there was free hot dogs and a quarter bag of popcorn and movie. It just seemed to be a real hit for families.
Yep.
And I thought that was really, really nice.
Anybody else?
I was just going to say that the comments about the possible petroleum contamination, Sam mentioned something I thought was kind of important, because if you have a history of a underground leak, it is not uncommon for it to travel under the surface of the ground for a long distance. And it's quite possible with its proximity to the hospital that there could be a connection. I think it should be considered.
Yeah, we definitely thought about that. We thought about it more than we care to think about it for the last 4 years for me.
And where exactly was that problem? Is that problem?
Yeah, Liz knows.
The corner of East Campus and Byford Drive. So I forget the specific street address, but it was a pole that had to be replaced, and when they dug it out, dug a hole for the new pole, there was this very strong odor.
Any other comments? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
No, I think I'll stay until mid.
Let's hang out.